What if everything you thought you knew about D-Day, the heroic landings, the united Allied front, was only the surface of a darker truth? Behind locked doors and shredded files lies a story of betrayal so deep, it threatens to rewrite the very history of World War II. This is a secret the world was never meant to uncover. Tonight, we open that forbidden box. But beware, once opened, there is no turning back. In the waning months of 1944, while Berlin crumbled beneath Allied bombs and the Third Reich gasped its last breath, a chilling operation began deep in the Bavarian Alps. Hidden within the snow-veiled Obersalzberg Mountains was Anlage 23, an underground facility known to only a handful of the Nazi elite. Here, under the code name Operation Eclipse, a small cadre of SS scientists and Luftwaffe engineers worked feverishly on something no one would believe: the launch of humanity's first manned spacecraft. Spearheading the program was none other than Wernher von Braun, the father of the V-2 rocket. While the Allies knew of the V weapons raining down on London, few suspected the real prize had never been London. Von Braun, coerced into obedience under the SS, had designed a prototype multi-stage rocket known as the Silbervogel, or Silverbird, allegedly capable of reaching low Earth orbit. Deemed impractical as a bomber, the design was shelved until 1944, when desperation brought madness to the forefront of German strategy. According to a now-declassified OSS file, codenamed Walrus 4, intercepted messages between Berlin and an unknown Arctic station hinted at the shipment of non-return modules and bio-suit cargo. These weren't code words. They were literal. Nazi Germany, facing defeat, intended to put the Reich above Earth itself. ***, a moon base ***, envisioned as a seed vault, military outpost, and final redoubt for the Nazi elite. In the documentary, we follow journalist Erika Hansfeld, granddaughter of one of the Anlage 23 engineers, as she traces her grandfather's journals, long thought to be delirious scribbles. Within them, names and dates match those from Allied intelligence reports. Descriptions of liquid oxygen chambers, anti-gravity, bubble tests, and a site labeled Gletscher 4, a massive ice tunnel under the Greenlandic shelf, begin to emerge with disturbing consistency. One testimony, aired from a 1978 interview and long buried in a Norwegian university archive, features Lars Nystrom, a Royal Navy sailor aboard HMS Vigilance. "We tracked an object," he says, "launched from somewhere near Thule. We thought it was a Soviet test, but it disappeared. Straight up, no arc, no fall. It went vertical." The centerpiece of this story is the 1952 CIA satellite photograph of the dark side of the moon, classified until 1998. The image shows what appears to be a symmetrical octagonal structure partially embedded in a crater's shadow. While NASA claimed it to be a shadow anomaly, Cold War scientists in Operation Paperclip whispered differently behind closed doors. Von Braun, during a drunken moment at a Huntsville party in 1962, allegedly muttered, "It worked. We really made it up there. We left a part of the Reich where no one could touch it." Could it be that the first man-made object to land on the moon wasn't Apollo 11, but a Nazi capsule? And if so, who, or what, was inside it? Experts weigh in with plausible deniability. Dr. Celia Mikovich, a former ESA orbital analyst, claims the idea isn't entirely far-fetched. Given the trajectory calculations from von Braun's 1943 notes, and the payload estimates of the Silbervogel, a suborbital slingshot to lunar orbit was barely within theoretical reach. If the Nazis had enough fuel, and no care about return. No care about return. That phrase echoes through the documentary like a mantra of doom. The most damning piece comes not from the Allies, but the Soviets. In 1961, cosmonaut Alexei Lobanov was part of a high-altitude balloon test mission over Siberia. What he claims to have seen would later cost him his rank and his mind. In a frantic note smuggled to a Czech relative, Lobanov described a capsule falling from the upper heavens, covered in old German markings, with a glass port showing a skeleton in a Nazi flight suit. The USSR buried the incident, and Lobanov was declared mentally unfit. Erika's journey ends at the edge of a crevasse in Greenland where her grandfather's journal describes the ascent platform. There, frozen in time, she finds a rusted launch silo, buried under half a century of ice, with jagged metal struts like the ribs of some mechanical beast. Etched on a steel plaque, barely legible, "For das ewige Reich," for the Eternal Reich. Satellite imagery confirms the structure's existence, though governments officially deny its significance. One thing is certain, the ice beneath Greenland is shifting, and buried things do not stay buried forever. In the final scenes, a new set of coordinates flashes across Erica's laptop, emailed from an anonymous source, this time in Antarctica. The camera pans up to the night sky, where a faint dot moves against the stars in a rhythm that doesn't match any known satellite. The implication lingers. Did the Reich really die in 1945, or did it relocate? Type "next" to continue to the next story. In January 1942, a convoy of black and marked Mercedes trucks made its way across the icy expanse of German-occupied Ukraine. Their destination lay far beyond the front lines, into the frozen vastness of Siberia. Aboard these vehicles were archaeologists, SS occultists, and members of the Ahnenerbe, Hitler's arcane research division tasked with uncovering ancient knowledge to justify Aryan supremacy. The target of this secret expedition was neither oil nor land. It was legend. According to the journals of Dr. Ernst Holz, a fringe archaeologist and key figure in the Ahnenerbe, the Nazi regime had come into possession of a 4,000-year-old Sumerian tablet unearthed in Baghdad during the early days of the war. The tablet, covered in cuneiform script and bizarre geometric diagrams, referenced a city beyond the white storm where kings speak with their minds. The term used was Al-Ashtor, often mistranslated as Atlantis. But in Holtz's notes, a single footnote chilled Allied intelligence when it was intercepted in 1944. Asterisk, the Siberian Pharaoh still sleeps in ice. Asterisk. The documentary reconstructs this chilling journey through frostbitten war zones, drawing on Dr. Holtz's letters to his estranged daughter, preserved in a Berlin archive. His team, known as Unit Eislicht, believed that a hidden civilization of psychic monarchs, descendants of an antediluvian race, was buried beneath the Siberian tundra. Ancient inscriptions supposedly foretold that whoever awakens the cold king shall wield the fire of the gods. Hitler, ever seduced by grandeur and myth, allegedly ordered the mission himself. The team reached the Yana River basin in March 1942, carving a path through deadly storms, Soviet patrols, and endless white nothingness. There, in a cavern sealed under ice for millennia, they uncovered a megalithic sarcophagus, a solid block of what they called black stone that bleeds. Around it, murals showed elongated humanoid figures, some with grotesque craniums, others with glowing orbs for eyes. One held what resembled a nuclear core, thousands of years before such things existed. In a dramatized recreation, actor-voiced excerpts from Holtz's diary describe how the tomb radiated a low hum. One soldier claimed to hear voices. Another had a seizure and screamed that the Pharaoh is dreaming. Holtz, who until that point had remained scientifically skeptical, wrote in his final legible entry, asterisk, "It's not just myth. We are intruding on something far older than Babylon. This king was not meant to be disturbed." Asterisk. The documentary shifts to Soviet records recovered after the collapse of the USSR. In 1948, a classified NKVD report describes a firefight between a Russian patrol and a band of retreating Germans near Verkhoyansk. Among the corpses was an officer with a strange amulet resembling a serpent devouring its tail, with coordinates etched into the back. The area was marked, sealed indefinitely, by Stalin himself. Then comes the wildest piece of evidence. Thermal satellite scans from 2001 show a perfectly octagonal structure beneath the permafrost, with a heat signature that has never faded. The heat source appeared shortly after a seismic event in 1943, around the time Unit Eislicht vanished. The structure's form is eerily symmetrical, far more precise than any known natural cave or lava tube. Professor Irina Volkov, a Russian geologist interviewed in the film, explains, "There's no geothermal activity there. And yet, we detect a pulsing heat pattern, like a heart. Something dormant. Something waiting." Theories spiral. Some believe Hitler wanted to awaken this so-called Siberian Pharaoh, to weaponize his supposed psychic abilities, perhaps to control minds, or communicate with ancient intelligences beyond our world. Others speculate the tomb housed pre-human technology that could bend time, perhaps even glimpses of future events. A shadowy interview with a former Mossad agent adds a modern twist. He claims that in 1969, the Soviets attempted a drilling operation into the tomb. The footage, if authentic, shows men panicking as machines fail and lights flicker. One survivor was recorded repeating the same phrase in a language that matched no known dialect. Holtz's daughter, now in her 90s, appears briefly at the end. When asked if her father truly believed he had found Atlantis, she responds with a whisper. He believed he had found the root of Atlantis. The seed. The place where the kings of old fled when their continent died. He believed. One of them survived. A final shot shows a frozen hand, half uncovered in a glacial wall near Yana, discovered by a scientific team in 2017. The skin is mummified, but unnaturally intact. It measures nearly 10 inches from wrist to fingertip and has 6 fingers. Did the Nazis awaken something beneath the Siberian ice? Or did they seal it even deeper? The last message left by Holtz, scrawled in a trembling hand, was just 4 words. Do not return here. Type next to continue to the next story. The world remembers August 6, 1945, as the day the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima. But what if the Japanese Empire had nearly beaten them to it? What if, in a last-ditch effort to change the tide of war, Japan had prepared its own atomic strike, not on a battlefield, but directly against the American mainland? In this speculative chronicle, we explore the shadowy legacy of Project N-I-Go, Japan's largely overlooked nuclear weapons program. Begun in 1941 under the guidance of physicist Yoshio Nishina, a colleague of Niels Bohr, the project was buried beneath layers of secrecy and desperation. Publicly, Japan appeared far behind the Americans in nuclear research. But a recent discovery of decrypted Imperial Navy documents, originally archived and forgotten in Guam, reveals a darker possibility. The film opens with a faded black-and-white photograph, a warehouse outside Konan, Korea, now Hungnam, North Korea, burning on August 24, 1945. The site was allegedly destroyed by Soviet forces days after Japan's surrender. But satellite evidence and survivor accounts suggest it wasn't a simple munitions factory. It was Japan's atomic laboratory. According to testimony from Hideo Tanaka, a former Army engineer who defected to the United States in 1952 and disappeared 2 years later, Japan had achieved critical mass in early July 1945 using a rudimentary uranium gun-type device. The warhead, codenamed Sakura-1, was compact, unstable, and built from scavenged European blueprints obtained through diplomatic channels in Vichy France and Sweden. But they had no bomber large enough to carry it, until one arrived unexpectedly. The documentary pivots to submarine I-400, the largest underwater craft ever built in World War II. These giants were designed to launch aircraft while submerged, carrying specially designed Siren bombers that could travel over 600 miles. Originally intended to bomb the Panama Canal, they were reassigned to a different mission in late July 1945. Operation Katsumi-I, the plan to bomb San Francisco with Sakura-1. Through dramatized readings of imperial memos, we learn that a crew of 14 men was selected for the mission. The Siren would be launched from the I-400 in the early morning, fly under radar across the Pacific, and detonate over the U.S. West Coast. Its goal was not to destroy the city outright, but to deliver a psychological death blow, forcing the United States into negotiation. A recovered field report by an Allied scout aircraft dated August 2, 1945, mentions a dark object breaching the water surface 300 miles off Hawaii, and a strange craft surfacing briefly before vanishing. At the time, it was dismissed as a Japanese mine layer. But new evidence shows the I-400 fleet was operating precisely in that corridor. So why did the attack never happen? The answer may lie in a coded cable sent by Admiral Yamamoto's successor, Admiral Toyoda Somu, marked Urgent Red. In it, he states, Asterisk, the gods of fire betrayed us. Sakura will not bloom. Asterisk. What happened on board remains speculation. But recently uncovered notes from a U.S. Navy boarding team who captured one of the I-400 subs on August 28 describe a mangled launch tube and extensive internal fire damage, suggesting a detonation during test arming. Radioactivity was never tested at the time, but 2 of the sailors later died of mysterious radiation-linked illnesses, attributed to engine exposure. Some believe the bomb was accidentally triggered during final calibration. Others argue sabotage. A Syrian pilot reportedly fled the sub during a resupply stop near Truk Lagoon, claiming the plan was unholy. His body was found days later on a beach, with signs of ritual suicide, or possibly execution. The final blow to Japan came 4 days later when Hiroshima was destroyed. But the documentary suggests a chilling irony. Both nations stood on the edge of atomic apocalypse at the same time, their fingers trembling over history's deadliest trigger. Retired U.S. Naval Intelligence Officer Robert Gaines, interviewed at age 94, puts it bluntly. We thought we ended the war with a bomb. But maybe, just maybe, we were preempting theirs. Post-war, the U.S. recovered all surviving I-400 submarines. Most were sunk in deep water to prevent Soviet inspection. Only fragments remain, steel plates warped in ways never fully explained. Today, a rusted propeller from one of these subs sits in a museum in Pearl Harbor. Beneath it, a plaque reads, "From the ocean's shadow, peace emerged." But what if that peace was not granted, but seized, just in time? Type, next, to continue to the next story. June 6, 1944, D-Day. The day the Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy in a decisive move to liberate Western Europe from Nazi occupation. The story taught in schools is one of Allied unity, joint planning, and a common goal to crush the Axis powers. But behind the curtain of cooperation lurked a darker tale, one of mistrust, betrayal, and political gamesmanship that nearly tore the alliance apart. In recently declassified British intelligence memos from the MI6 archives, historian Matthew Cole uncovered evidence suggesting that Winston Churchill, wary of American intentions and power, secretly manipulated intelligence to delay the American advance during the initial invasion phase. His goal, to ensure that British forces, not American, would be the first to enter Berlin and claim the symbolic victory for the British Empire. The documentary delves into the intricate web of espionage and diplomacy that led to this covert sabotage. Churchill's paranoia about post-war power balances was well known. He feared a dominant United States and sought to preserve British influence in Europe. Allied communications intercepted by German spies had indicated the Americans planned a rapid push toward Paris and then eastward, potentially sidelining British military claims. Newly uncovered transcripts reveal Churchill authorized MI6 to feed false signals, false troop movements, fake landing zones, and exaggerated German strength reports to Eisenhower's command. These operations were codified under the name Operation Iron Veil, a campaign designed to stall American divisions without their knowledge. The effects were subtle yet devastating. American General Omar Bradley's units, expecting to find weak resistance, were met with unexpectedly stiff German counterattacks. Frustrated, Eisenhower penned several letters demanding more accurate intelligence. One, found in the U.S. National Archives, reads, "Our men are fighting shadows, but shadows we did not anticipate. Intelligence must be precise, or lives will be lost unnecessarily." Behind the scenes, British commanders pressed for prioritizing attacks that would slow the American advance, ensuring British forces had the chance to secure key objectives in northern France. One confidential cable between Churchill and Field Marshal Montgomery instructs, "Delay tactics, no matter the cost. Berlin must see the Union Jack first." This internal conflict peaked during the Battle of Falaise Pocket in August 1944, when British commanders hesitated to exploit a breakthrough, allowing German forces to escape encirclement. Some historians suggest that this hesitation was deliberate, preserving German forces long enough to frustrate American command. Former MI6 operative Richard Henshaw, interviewed for the documentary, admits, "Churchill was playing a dangerous game. He didn't want to lose the war, but he also didn't want the United States to emerge as the uncontested superpower. Asterisk. Tensions boiled over in secret meetings held at Churchill's country estate, Chequers. Recorded in hidden diaries of British diplomats, Churchill accused Eisenhower of American overreach and questioned whether the United States was truly committed to a post-war Europe that respected British sovereignty. The documentary includes reenactments of tense phone calls, where Churchill demanded Eisenhower slow his troops near the Seine River. Eisenhower, for his part, was left baffled and frustrated, but without proof of British interference, he complied. This betrayal was almost exposed when a German agent posing as a British officer uncovered partial Operation Iron Veil plans. British intelligence neutralized him before he could alert the Nazis, but the incident created paranoia within Allied ranks. Post-war, the alliance quickly dissolved into Cold War hostilities, fueled by mutual suspicions seeded during moments like these. Churchill's gamble paid off in securing British influence in post-war Europe, but the cost was a fracture of trust that lasted decades. As the documentary closes, it reflects on the fragile nature of alliances and how even shared enemies cannot guarantee unified actions. The haunting question lingers: if Churchill had succeeded in letting the Americans bleed first, could World War II have stretched longer, or even erupted into a new war among allies? The final scene shows a faded photograph of Churchill and Eisenhower shaking hands at Yalta in 1945, the smiles thin and eyes wary, masking the silent betrayals beneath. Type next to continue to the next story. July 20, 1944, the day a bomb exploded beneath Adolf Hitler's East Prussian headquarters, the Wolf's Lair. History records this as the near-fatal assassination attempt orchestrated by Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg and the German resistance, a pivotal moment that could have changed the trajectory of World War II. But what if the bomb had failed? What if Hitler had survived, and instead of cracking under pressure, he emerged more ruthless, more cunning, and orchestrated a counter-coup that reshaped the war's endgame? This story explores a startling alternate timeline pieced together from recently uncovered Soviet archives and decrypted Abwehr communications. It proposes that Hitler not only survived the bomb but used the attempt as cover to purge his enemies and tighten his grip on Germany, turning the Reich's final months into a nightmarish, drawn-out conflict that almost plunged the world into endless war. According to documents recovered from a hidden safe in Smolensk, Stalin's agents intercepted reports of a secret meeting between Hitler and Heinrich Himmler on July 22, 1944. The purpose: Operation Fenrir, a brutal plan to root out all conspirators and reshape the Wehrmacht into an unyielding force of fanatical loyalty. The documentary follows the story of Captain Erika Mahler, a fictional intelligence officer who allegedly infiltrated the Nazi command to relay information to the Allies. Her diaries, recovered from a burnt-out Berlin safehouse in 1995, describe how Hitler's survival was kept secret, even from many within the Nazi hierarchy. Using the chaos after the bombing, Hitler reportedly blamed the resistance and certain Nazi officials alike, including Göring and Goebbels, accusing them of complicity in the plot. In a shocking move, he replaced them with loyalists personally trained by the SS' most ruthless officers. The film reconstructs how Operation Fenrir unfolded: summary executions in Berlin, mass arrests, and the ruthless conscription of civilians into the Volkssturm. Hitler, far from broken, used the attempt to project an image of invincibility, delivering fiery speeches that invoked ancient Germanic myths of the indomitable wolf, himself the Alpha. But the real game-changer came on the battlefield. Instead of surrendering or negotiating, the Reich unleashed its last secret weapon: the Sturm Tiger Battalion, armored vehicles equipped with heavy rocket launchers designed to annihilate entire Allied battalions in one salvo. These weapons turned the Allied advance into a grinding war of attrition. The documentary's centerpiece is a simulated reconstruction of the Battle of the Rhine in early 1945, where Allied forces faced near-catastrophic losses. The delay gave Hitler time to negotiate a secret pact with the Soviet Union, dividing Eastern Europe between the two powers in exchange for continued German resistance in the West, a chilling mirror of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. This revelation challenges the accepted narrative of the war's end. Declassified CIA files from the 1950s show intense interest in these possibilities, with agents sent to investigate rumors of a hidden bunker in the Bavarian Alps where Hitler supposedly fled in early 1945. While no conclusive evidence of Hitler's survival beyond April 1945 exists, Eyewitness accounts of a man resembling Hitler living under an alias in South America persisted for decades. In a haunting interview, former British intelligence officer Margaret Collins recounts, "The war we know ended in 45, but the war in the shadows, that war lasted much longer. Hitler's survival would have meant a very different world, one where darkness didn't lift so easily." The story closes with an image of a sealed briefcase stamped with the Reichsadler insignia and labeled Fenrir Files. Inside lies a single phrase, handwritten by an unknown author. The wolf survives. The hunt continues. The end. The shadows of war hide more than just battles. They conceal the fractured loyalties and hidden betrayals that shaped history's deadliest conflict. What we've uncovered is a reminder that even heroes can be deceived, and alliances can fracture in the darkest moments. Some secrets were buried to protect us, but the truth, once unearthed, demands we confront the uneasy question: how well do we really know the past?